Many people spend their lives believing that reality is evaluating them, not consciously perhaps. Few people would say they wake up each morning feeling judged by existence itself. Yet beneath much of human striving sits a quiet assumption that life is keeping score. When things work out, we feel approved. When opportunities arrive, we feel validated. When relationships flourish, we feel worthy. And when things fall apart, something very different happens. A relationship ends and it feels like rejection. A project fails and it feels like personal inadequacy. A business struggles and it feels like proof that we were mistaken. A goal doesn't materialize and it feels as though life itself has said no. The event may be external, but the experience quickly becomes personal. What began as a circumstance becomes a verdict. Most people do not suffer because reality is difficult. They suffer because they unconsciously translate reality into a statement about who they are. A delayed opportunity becomes evidence of failure. Exhaustion becomes evidence of weakness. Conflict becomes evidence that something is wrong with them. Even success can become part of the same pattern. Success feels good not simply because of what happened, but because it appears to confirm worth. For a brief moment, the nervous system relaxes. The inner questioning stops. The self feels validated. But if success is what proves worth, then failure must threaten it. And so life becomes an ongoing evaluation. Every outcome carries emotional weight far beyond the event itself. Every setback feels personal. Every uncertainty feels dangerous. Every disappointment feels like judgment. What makes this so difficult to see is that the interpretation happens almost instantly. The story appears so quickly that it becomes invisible. We don't see the event and then create meaning. We experience the meaning as if it were the event. And because of this, most people are not actually responding to reality. They are responding to the story they have created about what reality means. The question this chapter invites is simple but profound. What if reality is not judging you at all? What if much of the suffering surrounding success, failure, progress, and disappointment comes not from what happened, but from the interpretation placed upon it? And what if reality has been communicating something entirely different all along? The deeper issue is rarely the event itself. The deeper issue is the meaning the nervous system assigns to the event. Human beings do not simply experience reality, we interpret it, and those interpretations happen so quickly that they often feel inseparable from the experience itself. A difficult conversation occurs, and the nervous system translates it into failure. A period of exhaustion arises, and it becomes evidence of weakness. A delay appears, and it becomes rejection. Uncertainty arrives, and it becomes inadequacy. Friction emerges, and it becomes proof that something is wrong. The event and the interpretation become fused together. What is actually happening is no longer visible. Only the conclusion remains. This happens because the nervous system is not primarily concerned with truth. It is concerned with safety. Safety depends upon prediction. Prediction depends upon meaning. And so the system constantly attempts to explain reality in ways that create certainty. The problem is that certainty and accuracy are not the same thing. Reality may be communicating something very simple. Not yet, not this way. Insufficient capacity, incorrect timing, incomplete information, a missing piece that cannot yet be seen. But the nervous system often hears something entirely different. I failed. I'm not enough. I did something wrong. Something is wrong with me. The event becomes personal. And the moment it becomes personal, learning begins to disappear. Defensiveness emerges. Self-protection activates. Attention shifts away from understanding what is happening and toward protecting identity. This is where much of human suffering begins, not in the event itself, but in the personalization of feedback. A business challenge becomes a statement about worth. A relationship difficulty becomes a statement about lovability. A setback becomes a statement about intelligence or capability. Reality offers information, but identity converts it into judgment. This pattern is so common that most people never question it. Yet there is a deeper reason why it happens. Judgment creates certainty. If reality rewards good people and punishes bad people, then the world becomes understandable, predictable, controllable. If success means I am good and failure means I am bad, then at least there is a clear system operating underneath life. The nervous system finds comfort in that simplicity, even when the simplicity is painful, because uncertainty often feels more threatening than self-criticism. But reality is rarely that simple. Reality does not appear to organize itself around worthiness. It does not seem to distribute outcomes according to virtue. It does not reward people for being morally correct, nor punish them for being flawed. Reality responds to conditions. A seed grows when conditions support growth. A structure collapses when it cannot support its own weight. A relationship thrives when the conditions for connection exist. A body becomes exhausted when demands exceed capacity. None of these responses require judgment. None require approval or condemnation. They are simply responses to what is present. Reality responds to arrangement, to timing, to coherence, to capacity, to fit, not to identity, not to worthiness, not to whether you deserve the outcome. The difficulty is that the nervous system continually tries to convert these responses into personal verdicts, and until that pattern is seen, reality will continue to feel adversarial, feedback will feel threatening, and every experience will carry far more emotional weight than it was ever meant to hold. But the moment this pattern becomes visible, something begins to loosen. The possibility emerges that reality may not be judging you at all. It may simply be informing you. Once feedback becomes personal, reality begins to feel very different. The event itself may not have changed. The circumstances may be exactly the same, but the way they are experienced changes dramatically. The moment feedback is interpreted as a judgment about who you are, the nervous system shifts from learning into protection. Defensiveness appears, learning slows, shame activates, blame activates, self-protection takes over. The system is no longer asking what reality is communicating. It is trying to protect identity from perceived threat. This is why feedback becomes so difficult to receive. The issue is rarely the information itself. The issue is what the information appears to mean about us. A difficult conversation is no longer a conversation. It becomes proof of inadequacy. A setback is no longer a setback. It becomes evidence of failure. An obstacle is no longer information. It becomes rejection. Instead of asking what is reality showing me, the question becomes, how do I avoid being wrong? And once that shift occurs, the entire system reorganizes itself around self-protection. The goal is no longer understanding. The goal becomes preserving identity. Reality continues to offer information, but very little of it can be received accurately because it is filtered through fear. This is one of the reasons growth often feels so difficult. Not because reality is hiding information, but because the system is busy defending itself from information it believes is dangerous. Yet reality tends to communicate in remarkably consistent ways. It speaks through three primary forms of feedback: flow, friction, and dissolution. Most people understand these emotionally. Very few understand them informationally. Flow is often romanticized. People interpret flow as a sign they are doing everything right, a sign that they are blessed, chosen, rewarded. But flow is much simpler than that. Flow indicates that current conditions are relatively coherent. Energy moves without excessive resistance. Actions do not require constant self-override. Support appears where it is needed. Resources become available. The nervous system remains relatively regulated while moving forward. Flow is not validation. Flow is information. It is reality communicating that under present conditions, something fits. That is all. The mistake occurs when people attempt to cling to flow or turn it into an identity. Flow is not permanent. It is feedback about current compatibility, nothing more. Then there is friction. Friction is perhaps the most misunderstood form of feedback. Most people immediately attempt to overcome it. Push harder, try harder, become more disciplined, become more determined. But friction is often communicating something important. Something may be misaligned, something may be under-resourced, something may be mistimed, or something may be sustained primarily through force rather than coherence. This does not mean friction is bad. Growth often contains friction. Learning contains friction. Expansion contains friction. But not all friction is the same. Some friction strengthens capacity. Other friction slowly drains it. The question is not, how do I defeat this resistance? The question is, what is this resistance showing me? When friction is approached as information rather than opposition, it becomes remarkably valuable. Reality begins revealing things that force could never uncover. The final form of feedback is the one people resist most strongly: dissolution, the ending of something. A relationship falls apart, a business no longer works, an identity begins to collapse, a goal loses its energy, a plan that once seemed certain no longer fits. The mind almost immediately interprets dissolution as failure. Something must have gone wrong. Someone must have made a mistake. But often dissolution is not failure at all. It is completion. Life is making visible what can no longer be sustained. Not because it is wrong, not because it should never have existed, but because its role has ended. The difficulty is that the mind wants permanence. Reality offers participation. Everything has a season. Everything has a life cycle. Everything eventually reaches a point where continuation requires force rather than coherence. And at that moment, dissolution begins, not as punishment, as information. When flow, friction, and dissolution are understood in this way, achievement itself begins to change. Achievement is no longer a performance designed to prove worth. It becomes a dialogue with reality. Feedback becomes useful. Mistakes become information. Course corrections become natural. Failure loses much of its emotional sting because failure is no longer interpreted as a statement about identity. It becomes part of the conversation. The need to defend yourself begins to soften. The need to be right begins to loosen, and attention returns to what is actually happening. Paradoxically, this creates far more accurate action because the system is no longer trying to prove itself, it is trying to learn, and reality becomes much easier to work with when you stop arguing with what it is showing you. If there is one shift that changes the entire experience of feedback, it is this: reality is not against you. For many people, this sounds obvious, yet much of human behavior suggests otherwise. We act as though reality is withholding, testing, evaluating, rewarding, punishing. We assume that if we can just become good enough, disciplined enough, worthy enough, then reality will finally cooperate. But reality does not appear to operate that way. Reality is not trying to stop you. Reality is not testing your character. Reality is not evaluating your worth. Reality is responding. The same way a mirror responds, the same way gravity responds, the same way the body responds, without judgment, without commentary, without personal opinion. A mirror does not criticize what it reflects. Gravity does not punish those who misunderstand it. The body does not shame you when it signals exhaustion. They simply respond according to conditions. Reality functions much the same way. When something is sustainable, reality reflects that. When something is unsustainable, reality reflects that as well. When conditions support movement, movement occurs. When conditions do not support movement, resistance appears. The response is informational, not personal. Yet most people have learned to interpret these responses through the lens of identity. Something goes wrong, and the question becomes, why is this happening to me? Beneath that question is often another one. What did I do wrong? Or, what does this say about me? The attention immediately moves toward self-evaluation, toward judgment, toward explanation. But what if there is another way to meet feedback? What if instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You asked, what is this showing me? Notice the difference. The first question assumes a problem. The second invites understanding. The first turns reality into an adversary. The second turns reality into information. Or perhaps instead of asking, how do I prove myself? You ask, what is reality informing me about? Now the goal is no longer validation. The goal becomes clarity. The need to defend identity begins to soften. Learning becomes possible again. Or instead of asking, how do I make this work? You ask, what is actually happening here? This question is surprisingly powerful because it brings attention back to direct experience, back to contact, back to reality itself. Not the story, not the interpretation, not the fear. What is actually happening? What are the conditions? What is being revealed? What information is available right now? These questions create space, and in that space, the nervous system begins to settle. The pressure to be right starts to dissolve. The need to force outcomes begins to relax, and something more accurate can emerge. This is the deeper reframe at the heart of aligned achievement. Life is not a test you are trying to pass. Reality is not a judge you are trying to satisfy. Existence is not evaluating your worth. It is responding to conditions. And when you stop interpreting every response as a verdict about yourself, feedback changes completely. Feedback becomes intelligence. Flow becomes intelligence. Friction becomes intelligence. Even dissolution becomes intelligence. Everything that once felt personal begins revealing itself as information. Information that can help you move more accurately. Information that can help you stay in contact with what is actually happening. Information that allows action to emerge from understanding rather than self-protection. The moment feedback stops being a verdict, it becomes guidance. And the moment reality stops being an enemy, it becomes a partner in the conversation, not telling you who you are, simply showing you what is true right now. Perhaps one of the most exhausting things a person can do is turn every experience into a judgment about themselves. Most people do it so automatically, they no longer notice it happening. Something doesn't work out, and immediately it becomes a flaw. A delay appears, and it becomes inadequacy. A conflict emerges, and it becomes evidence that something is wrong. A goal doesn't materialize, and it becomes failure. An ending arrives, and it becomes rejection. Life keeps offering experiences, and the mind keeps translating them into conclusions about identity. Over time, this becomes heavy. Not because life is heavy, but because every experience is carrying more meaning than it was ever meant to hold. The nervous system becomes burdened with constant self-evaluation. Every outcome must be interpreted. Every setback must be explained. Every difficulty must be turned into a story about who we are. Eventually, even success becomes exhausting. Because if failure means something about you, then success must mean something about you as well. And now your identity depends upon maintaining outcomes. The system never fully rests. It remains vigilant, watching, measuring, evaluating, trying to determine whether it is finally enough. But what if reality is not saying any of those things? What if the delay is not inadequacy? What if the friction is not failure? What if the ending is not rejection? What if reality is simply responding, quietly, accurately, without judgment, without approval, without condemnation? The same way a body responds when it is tired, the same way a plant responds to sunlight, the same way water responds to gravity, not personally, simply honestly. And if that is true, then perhaps something important can begin to relax. Perhaps you do not need to defend yourself from life. Perhaps you do not need to convince reality that you are worthy. Perhaps you do not need to prove that you deserve what you seek. Perhaps you only need to listen, to become curious again, to allow feedback to be information rather than accusation, to allow reality to show you what is true without immediately turning it into a story about yourself. Because reality does not punish, reality does not reward, reality does not evaluate, reality reflects, reality responds. And when judgment begins to fall away, something remarkable happens. The conversation becomes clearer, the signal becomes cleaner, the struggle to defend identity begins to soften, and guidance appears where accusation once seemed to exist. Not because reality has changed, but because you are finally hearing what it has been saying all along. Reality is not judging you, it is informing you. And when that is understood, life becomes less about proving yourself and more about remaining in contact with what is actually happening. And from that contact, a different kind of intelligence begins to emerge. Quiet, accurate, responsive, and deeply aligned with reality itself.